Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wind Down Wednesdays. I'm your host, Paula Taylor, and this is episode 70. So I don't know about you, but I have been extremely busy. I just got back into town yesterday, and it's been a busy time. I went on a trip to Mexico, which sounds relaxing, but we were looking at houses. We took our little old man schnauzer with us, and we were kind of going the whole time. And so I didn't have a topic in mind. I thought, oh, well, I'll just do a card pull. But I'm also getting ready to present at a women's conference in Tucson this weekend. And it tends to be a pretty intense experience. There's a lot of energy that gets moved during this conference. So I was also thinking about my own self-care. What do I need to do to get myself emotionally and energetically ready for this big moving of energy, for this really intense but amazing conference that I'm about to go to? And so what came to me in terms of self-care was that I needed to do a bone cleaning meditation. And so then I realized that was perfect for Wind Down Wednesday. We have done a bone cleaning meditation before. If you've read my book, Spiritual Integration, which is available on Amazon, you can go to my website, paulataylorenergy.com, to learn more about it. Click on the little link to the book. There's a whole chapter on what I call the back body. That's dealing with all these issues that we sort of shove behind us. And bone cleaning is a way to kind of get all that energetic gunk out of our energetic system. And so that's what came to me intuitively in terms of what I needed for self-care this week. And the interesting thing about that is that I thought about saying like, oh, this is a selfish Wind Down Wednesday. I'm doing this for me. But the interesting thing is that as we talk about really often, radical self-love, self-care ripples out. And I can guarantee that I'm not the only one who's feeling a little bit overwhelmed right now. I'm not the only one who's really busy or who needs some energetic house cleaning, as it were. So we're going to talk a little bit about cleaning. And if you've watched the show or listened to the show, you know that I like to use home building and house examples. I find them to be easy to relate to because, again, sometimes this work is sort of abstract. So when you think about cleaning in terms of cleaning where you live, there's different frequencies of cleaning, right? There's things that we do every single day, like maybe we do the dishes or wiping the counters down. There's things that we have to do on a daily basis. Laundry feels like daily. Maybe for some people it's weekly, but for a lot of us it feels like a daily thing. And so we have spiritual cleaning that we do at that frequency as well. We might have a daily practice of meditation or yoga or some sort of physical exercise. Some people have a daily practice of prayer. So these are things that you're doing every single day or maybe almost every day to kind of keep your spiritual house clean. Then there's the tasks that we do maybe weekly, things that, maybe you vacuum more than a week. Maybe I'm gross and dirty, but maybe you vacuum your house about once a week or mop or change your sheets or whatever it is. So spiritually, there are things that we do more like weekly. Sometimes yoga might be a weekly practice or certain types of exercise. We have a weekly meditation here every week on Wind Down Wednesday. So that's kind of a weekly house cleaning. Then you have the things that you do maybe monthly or periodically, things that kind of come up maybe seasonally, where you're, maybe cleaning windows or stuff like that. And that spiritually, I was thinking in terms of something like body work or coaching. That might not be something that you do every single week. It might be something you do monthly or maybe every 6 weeks, maybe every 2 months. And that's also keeping your house clean. So if you think about this in terms of keeping your physical house clean, there's a lot of layers here, right? There's the daily layer, there's the weekly layer, and then there's this sort of periodic, maybe seasonal cleaning. But every once in a while, you need to do a really deep cleaning. And house-wise, that might be when you pull your appliances out in the kitchen and clean behind them or underneath them. Maybe it's when you clean your baseboards or your blinds in your house. There's things that maybe that's more of a Windows thing that you do, not very frequently, but it's really important. It's an integral part of your house cleaning practice. And So spiritually, we need to do deep cleaning of our house. And what happens spiritually, we talk a lot about trauma on this show. And we talk a lot about how until you're to the point where you're really processing in the moment, which most of us are not, we might get there once in a while, but most of us are kind of tucking things away and storing things as they come up. We're kind of like, oh, I can't deal with this right now. That goes in my right shoulder blade. Oh, I'm not sure about this. So I'll just shove this down in my hip. And so what happens is that in our physical body, this energy starts to build up. This emotional energy builds up as physical energy in our body. And so we start to get things like stiffness and tension. And what I determined when I was kind of channeling this whole process of spiritual integration was that we need to do bone cleaning. That's how we kind of get this gunk off of ourselves, out of our energetic bodies. And the way it came to me, the visualization that it came to me, and what I will use probably for this meditation tonight, as always, you can kind of do whatever works for you, but it came to me as a very specific visualization when I first channeled this meditation, and it came to me in terms of dental cleaning. So when you're cleaning teeth, they're going to get at some of this stuff with like a pick. They're really going to dig at some things. They're going to kind of brush. They're going to polish everything so it's shiny and fresh at the end of the cleaning. And so in the same way that works on your physical teeth, that is how bone cleaning works with intention energetically. So there are different parts of the body that kind of require there's some parts that really require some scraping or, like maybe a pickaxe. You really have to like get that gunk. And it's different for every one of us, but there are places where we tend to collect the most gunk. The sacrum, that tailbone area, the sternum in the chest, and the shoulder blades are kind of the main areas where we really kind of collect gunk, and we don't clear that gunk out very often. In fact, a lot of times we're not even aware that it's there. And you might see that when you're house cleaning, maybe you haven't cleaned your blinds in a while and then you wipe them down and it's like, ooh, I didn't realize how dirty that was. And that's kind of how this bone cleaning process goes. So we're going to do that tonight in our meditation. And what came to me as I was thinking about this was this idea that cleaning creates clarity. And if you think about that in the literal sense, it absolutely does. You have dirt, you clean it, it is now clear. Like think about a window. You can't see through a window when it's dirty. We did a whole episode where we talked about our lighthouse and cleaning our lighthouse windows. So when we clear this energetic muddiness, these frequencies of muddiness that we've tucked away in the different parts of our physical body energetically, it brings more clarity to our entire system. And clarity is what allows us to expand. It's really difficult to expand when you're in that muddiness, when you're in murkiness. There's nowhere to go. You can't see through the window. You can't see that there's more space if everything around you is dirty. So when we clear away that mud, we bring clarity, then that allows us to expand. And clarity plus expansion equals harmony, which is my word for healing. So it's really important part of our healing journey, of our self-care, to do this periodic cleaning, this energetic cleaning. And it has real world applications, as I've been saying for the last several weeks. If I can get this gunk out of my shoulder blade, the tension in my shoulder blade is going to relax. If I can get the gunk out of my jaw from where I physically tense up because of an emotional situation, maybe I'm holding back words I want to say and I'm clenching my jaw. If I can get that energetic gunk out of there, that emotional gunk out of there, then physically my jaw can start to relax. So this is important work. It's not work that we do every day. And there's a reason for that. There's no need to wipe your baseboards down every single day. I'm sure there are people who do, but most of us don't have time for that. Most of us barely have time to do the daily tasks that we do and the weekly tasks that we do and the monthly tasks that we do. So reserving this deeper cleaning for when your body and your emotional energetic field is calling for it, which is what happened to me when I was thinking about what I needed to do to prepare for this conference this weekend. That's the best way to do this, to just do it as needed, Do it every few months. And again, the more in flow you get, the more in touch and in tune with your own energetic and emotional and physical system, the more you're going to get to the point where you will intuit when this is needed. And you won't necessarily have to schedule it, but you can. You can absolutely schedule it. So the last thing I want to mention before we get into the meditation is the idea of cleaning without attachment. So my physical example of this is that every once in a while, my husband and I are like, all right, we're going to declutter. And I take out, a box that I find, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go through this box. And then I start pulling things. Oh, and there's a picture, and oh, there's a picture. And so pretty soon I'm not actually cleaning. I'm just looking at all these pictures. I'm sort of processing what I'm looking at, and the goal, the intention of clearing sort of goes away, and I get distracted. So one of the great things about energetic cleaning is that you don't necessarily have to process as you clean. Sometimes you do. Sometimes we encounter a big trauma. Sometimes we encounter an area that's really stubborn and that gunk's not going away. And that's a good sign that you might need help. You might need help from an energy worker to kind of get deeper into that area. You might need help from a mental health professional to process whatever the trauma is that's stored in that area. But a lot of times, that's one of the reasons I love energy work, and that I actually went into energy work rather than into psychology as I had planned, was that you can talk and talk and talk and end up just talking in circles. If you don't physically release the emotional energy that is stored in your physical body, it's impossible to fully release the trauma. And so sometimes when we're releasing this emotional energy from our physical bodies, a lot of the times it doesn't matter what it is. It's not something that we even have to examine. I don't have to scrape the gunk off, my shoulder blade and then be like, oh, this is that time in kindergarten when this kid called me an a-hole. Like, I don't need to know that. I don't need to process through that most of the time, a lot of the time. Again, so if you're doing this meditation and you find yourself getting really distracted like I do when I'm trying to declutter my house and I'm like, oh, remember this? Oh, remember this? That's not the purpose of this. The purpose of this is to clear this gunk away with the intention that it will be recycled for the highest good, that you are letting go of anything that's no longer needed. You don't have to worry about letting go of something that's good for you or that you needed to hold on to. This is just gunk, and our intention takes care of that. If you find as we do this meditation that you're getting stuck on kind of one thing, or there's a big thing that's coming up and you need to back off, absolutely do that. That may be one of those things that you need to reach out and ask for help on. And so it's always appropriate to step back if you need to. It's always appropriate to get up and move around if you need to. But those little things that come up, like the little pictures that I find when I'm decluttering, I mean, I could just take a big pile of pictures and put them in a box marked pictures. I could let go in that way. I don't necessarily have to throw the pictures out, but I'm not going to get any other cleaning done if I spend the entire time focused on this one area. So this meditation is very methodical. We're going to move through the body, hitting pretty much all the major kind of bony structures of the body. And I'm going to guide you as to the best suggested way to clean a particular bone. I will say that in the head, I don't like to use anything but light. And the way I picture that is kind of like a UV light that they would use to sanitize something like surgical equipment. You can absolutely clean with light. I don't like brushing around and knocking around in the skull. It just feels like an area that calls for light. And the same thing with the hands. Sometimes in the hands, I'll do a little bit of kind of light brushing, but I don't want to really be digging around in my hands. I mostly want to do just some gentle brushing and then use light. But for a lot of these larger bones, the pelvis and the hip bones, the scapula, your shoulder blades, and the back of the sternum, you can really kind of pick away at these. And then after we pick away, just as you do in a dental cleaning, you don't leave all that kind of jagged stuff behind. You're going to polish it. So we're going to polish every area before we move on. And you'll get the hang of this, and this will come intuitively to you. Again, if the visualization is just really not working for you and something else comes to you, absolutely you can go with that. But for this specific meditation, this visualization came to me really well formed when I originally channeled this. So I encourage you to give it a shot, try it out. And so we're going to do a meditation on bone cleaning tonight. So let's meditate together. So as always, be really gentle with yourself here. You can get pretty intense with the bone cleaning, but leave that intention of loving gentleness at the front of your mind. We're cleaning, but we're cleaning with love. So get yourself nice and comfortable. I encourage you to sit up for this meditation if you can, just to kind of stay alert and aware as we go through this. This is a fairly active meditation. Take a couple of nice deep breaths in through your nose, let them out through your mouth with a relaxing sigh. You can use that audible ha sound that vibrates the vagus nerve to start bringing you out of that fight, flight, or freeze and into the ease response, into the relaxation response. Start to feel more heavy and settled in your seat. Start to feel still. Let your mind still. Let your thoughts slow down if you can. Release the expectation of what comes next. Release those thoughts and worries about what happened earlier in the day. Just coming fully into the body here. Maybe you move around a little bit. Breathing into any areas of tension. Sighing that tension out. Allowing yourself to release anything that's no longer needed throughout this meditation for the highest good. And now bring your awareness to your tailbone, to that big bone at the base of your spine. You can bring your hand there if you'd like, just to kind of anchor your awareness in that area of your body. And when we're cleaning these bones, we're actually cleaning the inside of the bones, the side of the bone that faces into the body. That's kind of where that energetic gunk collects. So just take a moment, get really aware of that tailbone, the sacrum. And then as you're ready with intention, this is a nice, big, sturdy bone. You might want to use a pick. And again, I like to picture this like I'm working with dental tools. You can even imagine that you have a little vacuum there that's just vacuuming all the gunk that you scrape away, vacuuming that out and releasing it into the universe for the highest good. You can actually move your hand as I am. Sometimes that helps with your visualization. It'll help with the intention. And just scrape along the inside of the sacrum there, the inside of the tailbone. You don't have to know the anatomy of this bone or even exactly how it's shaped. Just let your intention guide this movement, guide this energetic work. And you'll find after you maybe used your pick for a little while, just like in dentistry, you might need to switch to another tool. So after I've done some nice picking and I feel like I've gotten the bigger chunks of gunk off of that bone, then I'm going to take like a nice stiff brush and just brush the bone. I'm going to brush that loose gunk off. Just getting this really clean. I can see that it's getting nice and clean now. But now it seems a little bit jagged, just like when we do dental work, when we have our teeth cleaned. The last step is polishing, is creating a really smooth shiny surface. That's where we're going to get our clarity. That's where these muddy frequencies come totally clear when we polish and bring light in. So as you're done with this brushing or wherever you're at, then I want you to picture that you're polishing this bone. You can polish it by hand like you would polish silver with a cloth. You can imagine you're holding one of those fancy polishers that they have at the dentist, or even imagine like a sander with just a really fine grit on there that's just polishing this bone to a beautiful shine. See how glowing white it gets when you start to polish it. All of that gunk is gone and released. And then the last step here is to just direct some light, that beautiful glowing unconditional love and light that we call in every week. Just direct that into that tailbone area. And now moving down from the tailbone into the actual hips, that kind of butterfly shape of your hips and your pelvis, bringing your awareness there. And same thing, you can get pretty intense with this if you'd like. You can get a nice pick out and just really scrape the inside of this pelvic area, these pelvic bones. And as you're going, you can see that I'm moving my hands. You don't have to do that. That can be helpful. If you get the hang of it and you like to let go of that, you can. If you're not doing that at all, that's also fine. I just find that it kind of helps focus my intention. And it helps make sure I'm kind of getting the whole area. And again, you don't have to know the exact anatomy of these bones here. Just direct this intention at your pelvic bones. And again, then you might switch to a nice brush, firm or soft, just brushing away any remaining gunk. You can repeat this meditation as many times as you'd like. And if this is the first time you've done this, you probably won't get everything, and that's fine. Any gunk that you get out of here is less gunk you have to deal with down the road. So then again, you're going to bring your polishing cloth or your polishing tool out and just really polish these pelvic bones, sending some beautiful light into the pelvis here, noticing how shiny and beautiful it is. Maybe noticing that this area of the body is feeling more relaxed, or even maybe that you're more aware of this area. Sometimes we're kind of floating heads and we've lost connection to the pelvis, to the lower parts of the body. And now we're moving into the femur, that long bone in the thigh. I like to use a really nice stiff brush here and just brush down the inside of the femurs here, the inside of those long thigh bones. You can use a pick if it calls to you. You can use any other kind of tool that's coming to mind. But I usually find that the femurs respond well to just some nice firm brushing. Sometimes I'll get a littler brush and kind of do some smaller movements in the femur, just really kind of dislodging some of that gunk, getting it to move around, getting it to loosen. And then of course the last step is to get that beautiful polishing cloth or your polishing tool out. Polish the inside of the bones there, really get them nice and shiny. Notice how beautiful and white they are without that gunk in the bone, and then direct some beautiful light along into this area as well. Call in that unconditional love, that divine light that's always there to serve you as you ask for help. Coming now into the kneecaps, the patella on each side. Now this is a pretty delicate bone, but it tends to accumulate a lot. So sometimes it might be appropriate to get a little pick and kind of pick at the inside of the patella. My right one is really calling for attention tonight. So I'm going to focus on that side with a pick first before I move on to brushing. And this is entirely intuitive. If you let yourself relax and go with the flow, your intuition will tell you exactly what you need to do here. I'm switching to a brush, and now I'm just kind of brushing the inside of that knee bone with my intention. Getting it nice and shiny. Now getting my polishing cloth out. I like to kind of imagine that I'm really getting this area nice and clean. Maybe I've actually gotten out my little power polisher here. I find it more rewarding to kind of actually feel like I'm doing it by hand. But again, this is completely intuitive. Sending some light into the knees, taking a moment and pausing and really sending light into the knees. The knees work so hard for us physically to support our body. They really bear a lot of emotional burden as well in terms of support. So really give yourself a minute, direct some light into the knees here, and then drawing your awareness down into the two bones of the lower leg. We're going to do both at the same time. You've got your larger tibia, your smaller fibula. Again, you don't need to know the anatomy. There's two bones in there. And I like to use a nice brush. And again, you can kind of brush these bones at the same time. You can do both legs at the same time. I tend to find as I get down further in the legs, there's a little bit less to clean. There's a lot of gunk collected around the sacrum and the pelvis and in the thighs and knees. And then as you start getting down, you might find also the body starts to adjust and your body starts to get familiar with what you're doing and it starts to respond faster, you might find, as you do this, as you get further into the meditation. So then when you're done brushing, again, get your polishing cloth out, really polish each bone. Send some light into each bone. You might find that you're being called to move a little bit as you do this. That's completely fine. Now coming into the ankles and the feet, we're just going to there's a lot of little bones in the feet, and we're just going to direct our intention to all of them, our attention and intention to all of these little bones in the feet. Again, you don't need to know the anatomy of the feet. I like to use like a really quick repetitive motion for the feet here, like a little, almost like a buffer, a little bit rougher than the polishing cloth, but not quite a full-on brush in the feet is what I like. But whatever is calling to you, you go ahead and use that. Don't forget about the toes, cleaning the toes out, cleaning especially around the ankles and in the heels. Some people have bone spurs in the heels, so this is a good place to focus, moving that kind of gunky energy that's building up in the feet. And then again, getting your polishing cloth out, really polishing the feet, hitting all the little areas of the feet, and then directing some light at the feet. I'm just pausing for a moment now to notice how you feel. Notice how your lower body feels. You might feel a lot more present in your lower body here. You might feel no change. That's completely fine. Again, you can repeat this as many times as you like, and you will find the more you do this, probably the more comfortable you get and the more of a response you feel in your body. You might find, like I'm finding, that there's some areas around my knees and lower legs that are kind of still calling for attention. So we'll just spend a minute before we move to the upper body. If there's any areas that are kind of calling for a little bit more attention, go there and just brush, pick whatever's calling to you. Anywhere from the sacrum down that we just worked on. If nothing's calling to you, then just sit and breathe and enjoy the way you're feeling. That right knee is really asking for some attention from me tonight. And you might find that for you, it might be an ankle, it might be the hip, either side, both. You might feel like, everything wants my attention. And again, you can come back and do this again. That's completely fine. So finish up here. Don't forget to polish wherever you're working. Send some light there. And then once more, before we move on, just take a nice deep breath in. Sigh it out. And as you breathe out, set the intention to release anything that's no longer serving your highest good here. Knowing that this gunk will be recycled. It'll be used for the highest good elsewhere. You're not dumping this off on someone else. You're just releasing this back into the cosmos to be used elsewhere for the highest good. So now we're going to bring our awareness to the sternum, to that big bone in the front of the chest. You might bring your hand there. You can kind of gently rub it in a circle. This stimulates the thymus gland. Can bring you into even further ease. And then as you're ready, begin your bone cleaning behind the sternum, the inside of the sternum here. And again, this is a big bone with a lot of gunk that collects. A lot of our heart issues, our emotional issues of the heart kind of collect in this area behind the sternum and in the shoulder blades. So you can kind of get a nice pick or like even a little, like a chipper, kind of chip away at the gunk there. The good thing about working energetically like this is that this is not literal, so you're not going to hurt anything. You're not going to hurt yourself here by moving this energy. And if anything comes up, especially in this area, you might have some emotional stuff come up. If you need to back off, back off. If you need to stop, you can stop. Absolutely. If something's coming to your attention repeatedly and it feels like you might need help, then reach out for help. You can always contact me. You can contact a mental health professional, anyone else who does energy work, or a coach. There's a lot of ways to get help if you need it. So here in the sternum, I'm going to get a pick. So I did kind of like a chipper, and now I'm getting my pick out and I'm just kind of knocking. It's almost like maybe I have a sledgehammer. I'm just knocking some gunk loose here. And again, you can see I'm moving my hand. You don't have to do that. I find that it helps with the visualization. It also helps to kind of keep you active in the meditation so your mind doesn't wander. It gives you something to focus on. But if it's not calling to you, then absolutely no need to do that. Now I'm getting a brush and I'm really brushing. I like to brush from top to bottom on the sternum, but it's not necessary. You can brush in any way you like. And now I've got my polishing cloth and I'm really polishing. The sternum is a good area to come back to. You're not going to get all the gunk in one sitting. And if you did, it might be a little bit too much. It might be a little too overwhelming. Again, we're not aiming to process this. We're just releasing. You don't need to know what this energy is from. You don't need to look at the specific memory that it comes from unless it's a really strong response. And then again, it might be something to just let go of for today. Back out, slow down, stop if you need to. And then really send some beautiful light into the sternum here. This is an area that works really hard for us as well, this heart center. And we tend to get really rigid in this area. We tend to build up walls. Sometimes we don't let energy in. Energy can't get out of this area. So just bringing this beautiful clarity and cleanliness to the sternum will really help your entire emotional and energetic heart center. So from here, we're just going to gently brush the ribs. You don't have to know how many ribs you have. Again, this is not an anatomy lesson. I like to use just a really thin brush. In the ribs, I usually find that just a couple of passes with the brush. And then I like to picture that I'm kind of using one of those little polishers from the dentist, or like a tiny little buffer to polish the ribs. It just seems a little easier because they're small bones. And then send some light to your ribs. Take a nice deep breath, let anything go. That beautiful ha out breath is a great way to release, especially if you're starting to feel some emotions come up. Just take several of those oxytocin breaths. That will bring you back into that ease response. Coming now to the shoulder blades, the scapula. And this is like heavy duty cleaning here. There is so much gunk that we shove back into this shoulder blade area. So really, you can pick at these with, like, sometimes I picture like an actual pickaxe, like I'm in a mine and I'm like chipping at a wall. That's kind of how you can do the shoulder blades. You can really kind of chip away at them. And as I'm doing this, if you're watching me on the video or later you'll maybe be listening on the podcast, my shoulders are relaxing as I'm doing this. Like, I can feel tension running out of the muscles of my shoulders as I focus on cleaning these bones. And that's that energetic release. So then again, we could spend like an hour just doing the scapula. We're not going to do that. You can come back to it later if you'd like. Brushing, kind of brush up all that loose gunk that got stirred up when you were hitting it with an axe. Who knew we'd be talking about an axe in a meditation? And then get your polishing. I really like to use kind of a buffer in this area. Like, I picture like a sander with a really nice soft buffing cloth on it, really sanding this. You really want to smooth this area out because that gunk is, some of it's hardened. It's like plaque. Over the years it gets hard, and then when you scrape it off, it leaves these little jagged edges. We don't want jagged edges. We want softness and flow. And then really directing some beautiful light at the shoulder blades here. And then coming into the collarbones here in the front, the clavicles, kind of like the ribs. I just sort of picture just lightly brushing. I like to brush in both directions here. Taking breaths as you need to, polishing these up. I don't usually find too much gunk in the collarbones because most of this stuff gets shoved through the collarbones and back into the shoulders. So from here, we're just going to do quick work with the arms and hands before we move into the spine. So just imagine, as we did in the long bones of the thigh, these humerus bones in the arm, the long bone in your upper arm, just imagine kind of, sometimes I like to picture almost like a little curly Q brush that's brushing down, or like a little, like a pipe cleaner. And I'm just cleaning down the upper arms, polishing the upper arms, cleaning around the elbows. Just a lot of times the elbows, all I do is kind of polish, maybe a little light brushing. These are smaller bones. We move a lot with our hands and arms, so the gunk that collects tends to collect around those larger bones, and then the wrists and hands tend to get a lot of gunk. But the arms themselves, usually you can kind of clean them pretty quick. The two bones of the lower arm here, the radius and the ulna, just same thing. Maybe you're just kind of lightly brushing. You can brush up or down, it doesn't matter. I like to brush down here, but it's just easier physically for me. And then get your little polishing cloth out, polish both those bones. And then as we get to the wrists and hands, again, I don't like to use the heavy equipment here. These are really delicate bones. There's a lot of bones in the hands and the fingers. So what I like to do is just very lightly, gently brush. Very, very lightly. Like, this is like the softest little paintbrush you can imagine. Your Bob Ross making a happy little tree in your hands here. Just very gently. No need to push. And then a little bit of light polishing, and then we're really calling in the light here. You can bring your hands together if you'd like. You can just imagine that you're calling in that light. It's coming in through the top of your head, filling up your neck and your shoulders, coming down through the arms and into the hands. Really let this beautiful light irradiate away any of that gunk in your hands. Letting go of anything you've been holding on to, anything you've been afraid to give, that you've been holding back in these arms and hands. Releasing that for the highest good now. And then as you're ready, coming into the neck, that cervical spine, you've got 7 cervical vertebrae there. We're kind of doing the spine in chunks. So we're going to start with the neck. The neck really holds a ton of gunk, but we want to be gentle here. We want to be gentle with the spine. So I like to use brushes for the spine and just kind of brush in a circular motion inside the spine, using my intention to kind of get all of the little vertebrae that stick out of the side and the back. Brushing around the spinal column, kind of clearing up some space for the spinal cord that does so much work for us. And then polishing. You could spend a lot of time on the neck. You can come back to the neck if you like, or just kind of doing a light deep cleaning tonight. It's deep, but we're not doing it for very long. And it's very effective. You don't have to spend a huge amount of time here. So then really polishing the neck, polishing those vertebrae, sending light into the spaces between the vertebrae, the discs, such important spaces there. Sending some light into the bones and the discs. And then we're moving down to the thoracic spine. So that's kind of the mid portion of your spine, from the neck down to about where your back kind of curves forward. And same thing, just kind of gently, I'm just sort of gently brushing around the spinal column, rotating, hitting all the little vertebrae that stick out, the vertebral bodies that stick toward the back, out the side. And this process is going much more quickly now. You may notice I'm moving more quickly, and that's because the body is like, oh, I know what we're doing. This is great. And it's starting to really get into the flow. So we're polishing this thoracic spine, and I've done this many times before. So if you're not finding that you're in that flow yet, don't worry about it. You can come back and do this as many times as you'd like, and you will get there. And then moving down to the lumbar spine, that's the last sort of 5 or 6 vertebrae here before we reach that sacrum where we started. And same thing, kind of cleaning around the spinal column, hitting each one of those little vertebral bodies, polishing and sending light into the bones and the discs, those spaces between the bones. Let's do that in the thoracic. I think I skipped that step. And just for a moment here, pause and imagine your spine as one big beaming light. There's light coming from above, down, connecting to that tailbone where we started. It's shooting out the beautiful vertebrae on the side, the little vertebral bodies in the back. You've just got light, this column of light that starts at your head and connects you to your lower body. And then we're going to spend just a moment here in the jaw. A lot of gunk that kind of accumulates in the jaw. You can get a nice pick out here. You can be a little bit more aggressive. These aren't big bones, but they work really hard. So just kind of doing a little picking there, a little firm brushing. And I can feel my neck and shoulders relax even more as I do my jaw. Everything's connected. And then polishing, sending light into the jaw. And now from here, what we're going to do is just kind of polish very lightly the entire head. The bones of the face, very delicate bones here, the bones of the scalp. And then now we're just working completely with that same light. So you can place your hands on your head if you'd like. You can kind of direct your hands at your head. That can help focus this intention, this light. And again, just call that beautiful divine light in. Let it clean that gunk inside your mind, inside the skull. Those murky, muddy thoughts that you've been carrying that you no longer need, let them go. Let them become clean and clear. Let this light just come in and bring clarity to any areas of mud, of murk. Again, you can kind of gently polish the inside of the skull if you'd like, just very gently. Let that light get directed all the way into your actual brain here, filling the headspace with light, with clarity, with expansion. And then now just seeing your entire skeleton, your whole body as this beautiful, bright, polished, gleaming white light. All of the bones clean and clear. More room to expand within and around the bones, in and around the body. Let your energy get really big here. Draw it out from the body. Let it fill the space around your body. Let it fill the room around you. Just let yourself really expand. Let this beautiful white, polished glow spread out from your body. Let it affect the room around you. Let it affect those you encounter in the upcoming days and weeks. Let it color your world with clarity and expansion, with this beautiful, glowing, divine light that is what you are made of. Direct it to any last areas in your body that are calling for attention. And then again, direct it out. Send it to someone you love. Send it to the world, to the earth itself, to humanity, to the animals of the world. Just let this beautiful light shine out. Let this love leak out of all of your bones, out of your pores, out of your body. Become a being of love and light. Letting go for just a moment of any kind of thoughts, any kind of worries, any feelings of not enough or too much, and let yourself expand to your capacity. Let yourself grow. Growing in light, growing in love, making this world so much more beautiful with your presence, with your light, with your beautiful divine spark. I encourage you to allow your energy to remain expanded for the highest good. You don't need to put any effort into this other than setting that intention. I expand. I remain expanded for the highest good. And then bring your awareness back to the body. Letting yourself come fully into the room, fully into your body. And affirm with me, I am fully present in my body. I am fully present in my body, and I am a being of love and light. I am fully present in my body, and I am a light to all those who meet me. As you're ready, you can take a few final deep breaths. Use that oxytocin breath if you'd like. Just coming fully back to yourself here. You can wiggle your fingers and toes if you'd like. The truth of your identity is that you are love and light. Let that light shine. Let yourself be clear and expanded and in harmony, both for yourself and the world around you. As you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I feel clean and clear. The room looks different to me, and I really appreciate you coming on this journey with me. Have a beautiful rest of your night. Have a glowing rest of your week, and I will see you next week for Wind On Wednesday.